In the unforgiving depths of the ocean, beauty is often a luxury, but survival is a relentless chore. Meet Feebas, widely regarded as the most unsightly creature in the marine world, a species forgotten by evolution. Driven by an invisible longing for connection, this solitary being begins its journey toward the brilliant light. But in the kingdom of the elite, there is no place for one with such a wretched and weak appearance. Rejection turns it into a target for the cruel games of predators who see its presence as a blemish. A pod of palafin hunts not for hunger, but uses the suffering of the weak to display their own dominance. Behind those dull eyes lies a resilient soul, enduring the humiliation of the self-righteous. To them, Feebas is nothing more than a lifeless toy, a pathetic entity with a bitter taste that saves it from being eaten. However, fate always knows how to test the compassion within creatures turned away by the world. A Milotic, the pinnacle of aquatic grace, is ensnared. Her light is fading against the suffocating grip of human debris. Opportunistic scavengers approach, their mindless curiosity only deepening the legendary creature's agony. For the first time, one who only knew how to flee chooses to fight back to protect a life more precious than its own. Pain has been its long-time companion, and Feebas has learned to stand when the world wants it to fall. With all its accumulated heat, it scorches the artificial barrier, determined to break the chains binding freedom. In a final burst, the strength of its despair shakes the very boundaries of life and death. The price of salvation is total exhaustion. The unsightly fish sinks into darkness after completing a noble mission. In response to the purest heart, the Ocean Guardian bestows the scale carrying the power of light and time. A divine biological reaction is triggered, shattering the crude shell to release the beauty that was always destined. Ordinary scales shed, giving way to shimmering silk veils, symbols of nobility and ultimate power. Those who once mocked it can now only bow before the presence of a newly reborn legend. True beauty was never absent. It was merely waiting for a heart brave enough to reveal it. In the deep blue, the most humble beginning has led to the most magnificent end. In the harshest geological labyrinths, food is a privilege. To survive, Axu must turn itself into a ghost at the bottom of the valley. Growth requires shedding. Through constant grinding, the old ivory peels away to reveal the ultra-dense calcium structure inside. As its biological size increases to the fracture form, its energy demands also force it to expand its territory. It ventures deep into narrow canyons, places that hold resources but lack escape space. And here, the food chain is absolutely dominated by a massive biomechanical machine, Crocodile. Its ability to manipulate the geological epicenter creates shockwaves that devastate all balancing efforts. To retaliate, Fracture focuses energy into its claws, creating biological plasma blades. But the difference in body mass is a cruel physical law that cannot be broken by speed. The apex predator immediately uses stratigraphic pressure to completely lock down the space. An unstable thermal mass is released at point-blank range to buy a few life or death seconds. However, in nature, life or death pressure is the most powerful catalyst. Internal energy reaches saturation, triggering a complete metamorphosis explosion at the cellular level. Using primal rhythms, it pushes its circulatory system into a state of controlled overload, maximizing physical kinetic energy. Crocodile attempts to re-establish distance with physical barriers, but Hakras's new muscular system has surpassed all inertia limits. In a final survival effort, the former king releases all remaining seismic energy. Exploiting the opponent's momentum, Haxorus converges all kinetic energy into a single mechanical cutting trajectory. Centrifugal force turns the tusks into a lethal tool. Enduring maximum impact, the biological alloy structure of the tusks retains not a single scratch. At the very end of this barren stone labyrinth, the food chain has officially welcomed a new supreme apex predator. Midnight in the Deadwood Haunt, where the veil of existence is thinnest. Duskull's eye seeks not prey, but the lingering essence of the departed. Not all spirits find peace. Many are trapped within their final moments. It summons ghostly flames, not to burn, but to light the way. Instinctively, the lost follow the light, trusting the silent guide of night. A collective requiem, an unspoken duty performed by the shadows of the forest. When the forest groans with sorrow, a greater vessel must emerge. Dusclops appears as a living pillar between the physical and spiritual realms. Within its hollow body lies a void of absolute silence and peace. It shields the weak from the darkness that hungers for unguided souls. Patience is its virtue. It waits for the perfect moment of release. But even the strongest vessel has limits against the chaos of void. To save the many, the self must be cast into the eternal flame. Dusk Noir, the final master of the path, the herald of the beyond. It does not just guide, it commands the fabric of the spirit world. It offers a final farewell, a slow walk through the forest's memories. There is no force here, only the gentle invitation to move forward. When the soul is ready, the gateway to the other side opens. It absorbs the remnants of suffering, ensuring a peaceful passage for all. The duty is done. The forest is quiet once more, cleansed of sorrow. It does not teach with words, but with the presence of power. The young learn to distinguish the lost from the shadows that deceive. Its work is never finished as long as life and death exist. A floating light is no longer an omen, but a sign of hope. Leading the dead is serving the living, maintaining the great balance. In these barren lands, the flames on a ponyta's back act as essential biological thermal vents. Hooves, 10 times harder than diamond, allow them to conquer the harshest terrains. They maintain a fragile symbiosis with other herbivores, sharing an early warning system. But peace ends when armored predators emerge. Agron, nature's living fortress. When threats arrive, the herd reacts as a single unified organism. Agron utilizes massive tonnage to shatter tight defensive formations. Normal fire struggles to melt thick plating, but high heat slows the enemy's metabolism. In chaos, the true danger often comes from the flankers. A precise tackle separates the calf from safety. Isolation is a death sentence. Juvenile defense mechanisms are completely ineffective against heavy metal plating. No help is coming. The cruel law of survival begins. Heart rate skyrockets, pushing the body's thermal system to a critical, dangerous limit. Facing death, Pokémon biology triggers an instantaneous cellular metamorphosis. Evolutionary energy releases, restructuring bone and muscle in a split second. The hunter now faces a creature of an entirely different tier. Attack speed bypasses the opponent's cognitive barrier. Survival instinct tells the defeated to retreat immediately. Even a steel fortress cannot withstand this melting temperature forever. A new guardian has been forged from the ashes of adversity. Life continues, adhering to nature's endless cycle. Evolution is not a destination, but the beginning of a new legend. In the desert's massive kiln, the line between life and death is as thin as a grain of sand. Trappage, the architect of these conical death traps. Patience is the ultimate weapon. It can wait for weeks without moving. The calculated angle of repose makes climbing back up physically impossible. The snap of the trap jaw. There is no escape. As night falls, accumulated energy triggers the first metamorphosis. From the earth, Vibrava rises, trading brute strength for sonic sensitivity. Vibrating wings generate ultrasonic waves, turning the desert into a living radar map. But the sky has its own ruthless rulers, Mandibuzz. Target acquired. Vibration sensors warn of danger from above. Coordinated hunting tactics. One drives, one blocks. Close-range sonic power is ineffective against aerial armored foes. Cornered between hot sand and talons. Death arrives from the sky. Survival pressure activates the latent dragon genetic code. Not an end, but an ascension. Aerodynamic structure perfected to master the storm. Flygon, the spirit of the desert. Eyes designed to see through every speck of dust. It turns the environment into a weapon. Strikes carrying dragon energy tear through enemy lines. Punishment from the heavens. Earth power erupts, expelling intruders from the territory. The hunters become the exiled. They call this the Song of the Desert. A guardian does not just fight, but maintains balance. Beauty forged from harshness. Here, wind, sand, and dragon merge into a unified entity. Mew, the genetic code of the beginning, playing among its creations. But the jungle always holds deadly traps. Intervention precise to the millimeter. The power that can crush stars used to cradle a tiny life. An invisible gatekeeper, always present but rarely seen. But disaster never waits. The power to move mountains executed as light as a feather. The noise of life gives way to the deadly silence of stone and metal. An ancient war machine lying dormant waiting for energy to reboot. Innocence leads the way to the abyss. The perfect feint. Mechanical speed completely overwhelms biological reflexes. Using the machine's own momentum against it. Softness overcomes hardness. It wants to devour the entire divine genetic code. In the eye of the storm, silence is the greatest strength. The mind reaches the state of void. All noise is eliminated. The machine pours all remaining energy into one final gamble. Surgical counterattack, precise and destructive. The origin gene delivers the final verdict. Genesis pulse. The machine has been permanently powered down. In this damp ancient oak forest, being small usually means being prey, unless you are Pachirisu, an agile opportunist with a deadly arsenal. It uses friction to accumulate static electricity in its cheek pouches and tail, hunting with precision, not brute strength. But the law of the jungle is simple. There is always someone bigger watching. Staravia, the patrol of the skies. The chase begins, speed versus wingspan. A slip can cost a life. A devastating, reckless attack. Area of effect resistance. It's narrowing the escape route, cornering the prey. The incredible durability of the electric squirrel. A risky gambit. The hunter has taken the bait. A bold feint based on momentum. The hunter overshoots, exposing a fatal weakness. All energy poured into one decisive strike. Volt tackle. the power of wild lightning. The ruler of the skies has been dethroned. Victory, but not without a cost. It needs the darkness to recover. The forest is unforgiving, and Pachirisu remains the master of this territory. Giant Chasm, a geological rift isolated by permafrost and perpetual darkness. This is home to an entity possessing the power of Wuji. Kurem, a hollow shell remaining after the Great Split. It must freeze itself to stabilize its disintegrating cellular structure. Freezing pressure turns all movement into ruins. The silence is shattered as the energy core of truth suddenly awakens. Kurem reacts to the intrusion of law-defying thermal energy. A compressed ice beam is launched to extinguish the primordial fire. Blue flare collides with cold air, causing violent steam explosions. Truth does not retreat, it chooses to strike at the flawed shell. The weight of emptiness carries the momentum of a mountain. Kurem releases its suppressed state, bringing temperature to absolute zero. A destructive storm, devouring all ideals and truths. Thermal energy is neutralized by a colorless infinite force. The final moment of the struggle between existence and nothingness. Truth is, once again buried under layers of ancient ice. Kurem restores order through absolute silence. Scars are filled with frost and solitude. The giant chasm ecosystem returns to eternal hibernation. Kurem is the boundary that no creature is permitted to cross. It is no longer passive, but the guardian of the boundary. This power exists only to await a true hero. A soul waiting to be filled by ideals or truth. Balance is maintained at the cost of confinement. Time stands still inside the giant chasm. The world outside will never know of this encounter. Emptiness is the highest form of absolute power. In the brackish waters of the mangrove, an ecosystem teeming with hidden predators begins to awaken. Froki spends much of its early life in hiding, honing its first survival reflexes. The foam around its neck is more than decoration. It is a vital moisture-retaining mechanism for an amphibian. Upon evolving into Frogadier, its leg muscles advance greatly, allowing it to conquer higher levels. Agility turns it into a confident, low-tier hunter, though sometimes lacking the necessary vigilance. But at the highest level, a true tyrant of the ancient forest silently watches the unauthorized intruder. Septile strikes with leaf blades as sharp as industrial steel. At the edge of extinction, a primal survival mechanism triggers a violent cellular metamorphosis. It is submerged under the torrent, where pressure and rocks stand ready to crush all hope of survival. In the moment of deepest despair, ultimate evolution transforms it into a perfect biological weapon. The long tongue now functions as a sensory organ and a thermal regulator for its sensitive body. The mucous epidermis neutralizes light reflection, making it a ghost in broad daylight. By manipulating water molecules at high pressure, it creates a compressed mass of immense density. The water star rotates at supersonic speed, carrying enough kinetic energy to pierce the toughest plant structures. To face a ninja is to face the subtle illusions and deceptions of the dark. A direct water pressure kick ends the battle for the ultimate throne of the mangrove. The victor needs no boast. Its silence is the most powerful message for the entire forest. It vanishes into its own mist, hiding its form beneath a mysterious veil of vapor and shadows. Every movement now carries the breath of discipline and absolute biological focus. The next generation swims under the silent protection of a legend just written in the night. As rain falls, Greninja becomes one with the water element, completely impossible to be detected. A solitary silhouette guarding the sleep of all creatures, the soul of the mangrove at midnight. The Guardian's gaze flickers out, leaving the ancient woods in the peace of the deep darkness. Deep in ancient valleys, a 1,000-year biological cycle begins. A steel psychic entity slumbers, nestled inside a durable crystalline shell. A pure sound from a tiny life form accidentally awakens the deity. The celestial seal shatters, releasing a creature from the cosmic void. The third eye is a gamma-ray absorption organ, its primary life source. Jirachi awakens, a living entity embodied in ancient wishes. Teal tags are biological circuits receiving astronomical signals. The emergence of pure energy attracts the valley's apex predators. Tyranitar, the mountain tyrant, craves the living meteorite's power. There is no fear, only the calculation of steel intelligence. The gravity field warps as matter slowly loses its mass. This power doesn't destroy, it isolates the threat from reality. It begins to etch a fated coordinate into the timeline. Doom Desire, a star-born judgment for those who trespass. An astronomical intervention to restore order to the valley. After the wrath comes the tenderness of a guardian entity. The move wish is not magic, but rapid cellular restructuring. Time on the surface is fading with the last meteor streaks. As stars depart, this creature must return to its slumber. The energy metabolism cycle begins its 1,000-year storage phase. The protective shell again isolates it from a volatile world. Sleep preserves power for some distant, far-off century. The world will soon forget the presence of the tiny deity. The bond between earth and sky is temporarily severed. Its survival instinct lies in absolute silence and mystery. We are but transient observers in the span of its journey. Residual psychic energy will nourish this land for many eras. Sleep well, O soul sent from the distant, reaching stars. In these warm, shallow waters, life exists in a state of waiting. Shelder, a bivalve organism with a simple survival tactic: filtration and patience. The oversized tongue is actually a highly sensitive flow sensor. Hard shells allow them to camouflage as harmless rocks amidst the coral reef. But even the thickest calcium shells cannot stop armor-breaking predators. Crawdaunt, a biological tank with a ruthless temperament. This intruder dislikes stealth. It hunts with pure brute force. Danger sensors alert. Emergency closure protocol activated. Target acquired. Shelder moves via water jet propulsion, an emergency escape mechanism. Speed is not the mollusk's strength. The gap is closing. The flight ends at a dead end. In desperation, fate intervenes in the form of an ancient mineral. The predator prepares the finishing blow for the stubborn shell. Energy radiation from the stone triggers a latent biological chain reaction. Calcium restructuring occurs instantly. Simple shell becomes complex, spiked armor. Cloister, the ultimate evolution of defense and offense. Arrogance blinds the predator into rushing to its death. This shell is harder than diamond, defying physics. It activates Shell Smash, sacrificing defense for devastating power. The hail begins. There is no escape. Overwhelming power turns the battlefield into a frozen graveyard. There is no mercy in this new form. A strike carrying the force of a raging tide. The old ruler has been permanently deposed. The innocence of the shelter is dead. The reef ecosystem has a new order. It leaves the safety zone to seek worthier challenges. From a lifeless rock, it has become the king of the deep. A solitary predator begins its conquest of the ocean.